Hi guys, so today's video is going to be how to groom your horse winter edition. So I'm grooming Taffy today and I brought them in a few hours ago to let the mud dry from the fields. So as you can see, he is looking very dirty, very muddy and not brilliant in all honesty, because it is very wet and very muddy as at the moment, and we've had a lot of rain, so that is why. So I got a comment the other day asking how you would groom if you don't have in-store facilities, and this is what we used to do. We used to take the rugs and keep them on and then undo all of the straps including the front, tie the surcingles like so, just so that they don't get in the way and the horses don't injure themselves, and then quarter the rug or half it. I don't know why it's called quartering because it's technically a half, but I suppose you do it up to their quarters. So you just fold the rug in half and then work from the neck down to the point where the rug is. So once you have done the first half of your horse, just go and put the rug back on them and then fold the other half so that you can do their bum and legs and down to their tail. This method just keeps the horses warm and keeps them sheltered partly while you're grooming them. Obviously I'm indoors, so I don't need to keep Taffy's rug on. When I'm grooming, I like to do the sections that Taffy doesn't like being groomed the most first to get them over with. So the first things I use are curry combs in circular motions. I use that one and this second one, and these are best for getting the mud off, and again circular motions. And then I use a face brush. This is quite a soft one, but I'm trying to find a thicker one. So I start with a curry comb, and then it's just good to try and see how much mud you can get off with a curry comb. If it is really excessive, the mud, and with Taffy I know it was really quite hard to get any mud off, I use a different brush. So I actually use a mane and tail brush. These are really good because obviously they have the sort of spiky bits, I suppose. I'm not sure what you'd call them. And as long as you're really gentle and use a circular motion, again really gentle on the horses, it actually gets a lot of the mud off. So once I've used that, I then go back to my rubber curry comb just to help get any of the last little bits of mud off, and I just find that using the mane and tail brush helps to release some more of the mud particles that are attached, and so that they're not in big clumps, and it's much easier to get off with a curry comb afterwards. And then finally I finish off with a face brush. Now, because these are quite soft, it does look a little bit brutal, I'll be honest, but he's actually really soft and he doesn't mind it at all. Sometimes you have to sort of just try and grab the little pieces of mud because you won't get every single piece off, but I just try and get as much off as possible, and then the face brush just helps sort of make his face look a bit more glossy and just get rid of any excess dust. So moving on to the mane, I use a simple comb, some Canter Coat Shine conditioner spray, and again the mane and tail brush. So the first thing that I do is I section his mane into manageable chunks, because it does look like dreadlocks, and his mane is terrible because he rolls in mud and then it just ends up all stuck together and really difficult. So by partitioning it into sections, it makes it a lot easier to just do it in steps. So I generally partition it into 3, so this is about a third, and then I lather it in the spray. This just helps get as many knots as possible out. Then I grab it firmly at the top in a big chunk and start to try and brush through it. This doesn't hurt him at all. By grabbing it at the top like that, it stops it from pulling on his hair at all. so is more than happy to have his mane brushed. It is very difficult, but you get there eventually, and it takes forever because Taffy has such a thick mane. So then I split the large section into 2 smaller sections, and this just means that I can do it a bit thinner and it's easier to brush once it's started to sort of all untangle. So you can see the difference between the right hand side and the left hand side. The left is a section that I've not yet brushed. So for his tail I use exactly the same method. I'll lather it in as much spray as possible because otherwise there is no way that you can get through all of the knots. Then doing in sections again, I start from the bottom of the tail and work my way up. This is the best way I find for getting out knots because the knottiest bit tends to be at the end of the tail, so you can brush the top and then your brush gets stuck at the bottom. So I start at the bottom, again holding the hair so that it doesn't pull at all. Then for his body I use this dandy brush. This is for getting the dust off mainly, and obviously I use my rubber curry comb for the mud. Also don't forget to do between the 2 front legs, as you tend to get a lot of mud in this area. Unfortunately, after this point, Taffy heard a noise that spooked him and he got really stressy, so I couldn't groom him and I had to put him in the stable because the only way for him to calm down is, as you can see, sticking his head out the window, and this is a little while afterwards. But he did finally calm down, but there was just no way I could have kept grooming him, so I just wanted him to calm down and de-stress a bit. So unfortunately I can't show you, but I'll just explain how I groom his legs and his feathers. So I use a mane and tail brush to go through the long feathers and just use sort of this motion to try and get as much mud off as possible. I also use my rubber curry comb on his legs, again in circular motions, to get as much mud off, and sometimes I will use a dandy brush. Now this one is quite a thick and hard dandy brush compared to the one that I'd use in his body, and this is really useful for getting all of the mud off, but you do have to be quite careful because obviously it is quite a hard one, so you don't want to hurt their legs, especially as Taffy has quite slender little legs.